So I was finally ready to leave the Bronx. I had lived in my apartment for 8 years. I had endured a lot of crazy madness, chaos, violence in the building, loud, unable to ever sleep in the building because of the noise. There were a lot of really inconsiderate people in that building. And also the city just was changing a lot. I don't know. I was ready for a change. So I actually found an apartment really quickly up in Peekskill, New York. And it was a perfect place. It was an old building that had been renovated into new apartments, which was kind of perfect for me because I like old buildings. It was in a really close area to the train station and the river. There's a lot of art kind of stuff going on in the city, and I'm an artist, so that's a good thing. And I liked the guy who owned the building, and I was just about to actually sign the lease. The apartment was the same price that I was paying in the city, and it was just seemed much more peaceful. But just as I was about to sign the lease, I thought, you know what, it's really too small. And as excited as I am right now, this is going to annoy me in about 6 months. So I pulled out. And then I kind of put it out of my head, the pandemic happened, and I just kind of let it go for a while and just said, I'm just going to stay where I'm at and, let the universe provide, whatever, see what happens. And then I got a call from a friend of mine who lives up in Poughkeepsie, New York, which is like another 45, 50 minutes north. And it's a little bit further than what I wanted to do. However, there's a friend who I really like. She's an artist, a great artist, and I had performed up there a bunch of times. It was a town called Poughkeepsie, New York, and I thought, why not? Let's take a look at it and see what's up. So, drive up to Poughkeepsie. I meet the owners of the building. Really, really nice people. It's in a kind of a brownstone type of building, 3 apartments. This would be in the ground floor. It was big, probably about as big as my place in the Bronx. I had a huge apartment in the Bronx. This was maybe even a little bit bigger. I was able to have a place to park my car, which is like a miracle for a New Yorker. There was laundry in the apartment. I was close to the train station. I was close to the river. It was very close to what was going on in Peekskill. And so I was thinking I could do this, even though it's kind of far away from the city, but I was ready to leave the city. Like, I didn't want my life to be all about New York City anymore. I wanted to kind of branch out a little bit and expand my horizons. And so anyway, I'm sitting and I'm talking to the owners of the building, which is right over there across the street from where I'm talking right now. And actually, I'm sitting on a bench in front of a theater, which is right across the street from my new home. So anyway, I'm talking to this couple who owns the house that I'm potentially going to move into. And I tell them, it's wild. Because I've been working on a play for the last 2 years, and now I'm working on a film, which is based on the same story. And amazingly, it takes place in Poughkeepsie, New York. Because 2 years ago when I started working on it, a very close friend of mine was telling me about this pedestrian bridge up in Poughkeepsie, and my story revolves around a bridge. It's like the whole thing takes place on a bridge. And she told me about this bridge, and so I read about it, and it's a historic bridge that goes over the Hudson River from Poughkeepsie to Highland, New York. And it's supposedly the longest pedestrian bridge in the world. And in my mind, it was this old, rickety kind of wooden bridge. And so my story was based on that bridge. That's where I had it take place. And as I'm talking to these people, I'm telling them this, and they're like, oh yeah, that's 2 blocks from here. And so that was kind of weird. Like, now I'm 2 blocks from where I placed my story before I had ever even been to Poughkeepsie, New York during the day. Like I said, I performed there 2 or 3 times. I was there at night. I just came in and got out, but I had never really spent any time I don't think I've ever been to Poughkeepsie, so that was one thing. And then one of the people who owns the building said to me, so you're in the theater, like, tell me about who are your theater people? And so I explained to her that there was a woman who, her name was Barbara Van, who handed me the keys to her theater, the Medicine Show Theater in Manhattan, many, many years ago, because she said, look, I had done a showcase there, and she said, you know what? An artist like you deserves a place to work here. And she just gave me the keys, and I became an artist in residence at that theater. And it turns out that this woman who owned the building was one of Barbara's best friends. And then I said, yeah, another person was a guy named Carlos Altamare, who was the first person who booked my show, Broke Wide Open, which was like a 6-year journey for me, an incredibly visceral, meaningful, important thing for me to be working on for 6 years. And Carlos was the first person that booked me and really believed in me and treated me like gold in the city in a place called Theater Lab on 14th Street and 7th Avenue. And the woman, her name's Pina, who owned the building, she said, oh yeah, I'm good friends with Carlo. We were in the Living Theater together for many, many years. We're actually really good friends. And I'm like, wow. And then I told her about another friend of mine, and it turned out that she used to babysit for him and knew his father, and she knew all the same people that I knew. And then I came from the music business. Let me back up a little bit. So music is very spiritual for me. Even though I've been in the theater for the last 15 years, I started in music, and music has always been very, very spiritual for me. You know, and actually one of the reasons I got out of the music business is because it started to take that feeling away from me. It just became just about business, and that was it. So anyway, I told them I'm a musician too. And I looked, you know, I'm sitting in this beautiful living room with these two people, and the man named Daniel, he plays the piano. They have this beautiful grand piano in their living room. And I said, oh my God, yeah, my musical god is Keith Jarrett. And he goes, oh yeah, I know Keith, I've traveled with him. We're good friends. And so I'm like, you're friends with my musical god. So, obviously, I prayed that they would accept me as the person to live in their home. Of course they did, because I'm here, obviously. And, you know, I kind of put it out there that I wanted to leave. I didn't want to just move anywhere, though. I wanted to find a place that could feel like home, that place where I could rest, have some peace, where I could feel like I could thrive creatively and still do my work, where I could spread out and have a nice space, where I could feel like I'm in the country, yet I'm also in an urban area. Poughkeepsie is a very, very diverse area. And recently my friend Baba Israel hired me to document some hip hop and jazz and music, you know, some workshops that he was doing in a middle school up here. And I told Baba that that was like a real turning point for me, because I still don't really know anybody up here, but that was the first time that I really felt like, you know what, I live in Poughkeepsie. Because I got to work with these middle school kids and these teachers and these other great artists, and got to do a really meaningful documentary. And yeah, so I live in Poughkeepsie. And you know, these kind of things happen to me all the time. If you're following my stories in 4K, you'll know that it's not unusual for me to have all kinds of weird connections happen, and these unusual things that just seem to appear from the universe. And you know, I've just never believed that there were any coincidences or mistakes or whatever. And I just try to go with it and try to be accepting of what the universe puts in front of me. And so grateful to be here. I guess the final thing for me was, I'm a runner, and I started running every day on the pedestrian bridge, which would make sense, right? Like, that's my dream. It's in my show. It's like I got to run there every day. But it's just not that rickety wooden bridge. It's like this beautiful modern, you know, they upgraded it. It's kind of a touristy kind of bridge now, but it's made of straight up concrete, and it was destroying my body every day when I ran on it. And so one day, Pina, who owns this building with Daniel, she called and she texted me and said, if you're interested in some kale, there's a woman who works at these ecological gardens at Vassar College who has this overabundance of kale that they need to get rid of. And I was like, I am Mr. Kale. Like, I put so much kale in my body. So I met with this woman, really, really nice person, and she gave me tonnage of kale and told me about these ecological gardens over at Vassar, where they have all of these people growing produce, you know, having their own little, like a series of community gardens, which is something I loved in New York City my whole life. Like the way people took this urban space and turned it into something where they could grow food and beautify the neighborhood. And so I went to Vassar, and what did I find? Miles and miles and miles of dirt running trails. Perfect for my body. I could run up into the mountains. You know, one of my favorite places on earth was Marin County out in San Francisco area. and this place really reminds me of Marin a lot. And so that was kind of like the final nail in this new life for me. Now I go to Vassar every morning and I run on those trails, and it's beautiful, and I see birds and all kinds of crazy stuff. It's just fantastic, and I'm so grateful to be here. Every time I come home at night and I could actually park my car anywhere on this street, it just feels like a miracle to me. I go to the river every day because I never want to take it for granted, ever. And so this might not be an astounding story. This is, I believe, episode 12. But to me, it is an amazing, miraculous story, because I found a place where I could live for a long time outside of New York City. And I'm not that far. I can get to the city. I could just get in the car and drive. It takes me about an hour and 10, an hour and 15 minutes to get there. Or I can take the train right to Grand Central. But I'm also far enough away where I feel like I can live here. I can be where I'm at. I could really be present. And I'm looking forward to contributing to this community and to bringing some of my art here. And, you know, I'm already working on a new film, and I'm looking forward to meeting more people here. And yeah, I'm just real happy to be here. So that's my story in 4K, episode 12. I'm using my Tamron 17-70, and I'm shooting at 17 millimeters, which is roughly 25 millimeters on a full frame camera. And just for telling a story like this sitting on a bench, it's perfectly appropriate and fine. I'm shooting an S-Log2. It's a beautiful day. It's actually the 4th of July. And thanks so much for watching, and please subscribe. And please hit the like button if you like these. And I'm going to continue, and I'll have more interesting stories than this one. This one's kind of all about me, but I hope you enjoyed it. And don't be afraid to dream and manifest those dreams. All right, see you next time. Peace.